My name is Nora Sinclair. I'm 34, and for most of my life, I've been the quiet one, the overlooked youngest daughter in a family that never trusted me with anything more important than keeping the peace. While my siblings were born sharp-edged and ambitious, I learned to survive by staying small, agreeable, invisible. Maybe that's why no one believed me when I said something in our family had always felt off, like a door everyone refused to open. I used to think that made me dramatic, paranoid even, until the night everything snapped into place. Because the truth is, the danger didn't start when my mother showed up at my door at 3 a.m., shivering and half-frozen. It started long before that, and I was the only one who didn't see it coming. The knock came like a shot. 3 hard bangs. Then silence. I sat up in bed. Cold sweat. No wind outside. But the house creaked like someone was breathing down its neck. My phone was dead. Of course it was. I pulled a sweatshirt over my tank top, moved barefoot through the hallway. Lights off. The digital clock blinked 3:07 a.m. The porch light flickered once, then stabilized. When I opened the door, I thought I was dreaming. My mother stood there, barefoot, soaked in sweat and rain, shaking uncontrollably. Her lips were blue, her eyes wide, distant, almost not seeing me. Behind her, my father leaned against the wooden railing, his hand pressed to his chest, his breath short and rasping. "Mom," I whispered, stepping out, the cold biting into my skin. She collapsed into my arms. 10 minutes later, I had them wrapped in blankets on the couch. The kettle screamed on the stove. I made 2 cups of peppermint tea, hands trembling as I poured. My father kept rubbing his chest. My mother kept whispering the same 4 words. "We weren't supposed to." "Weren't supposed to what?" I asked. She looked at me, eyes glassy. "Be here." Darius, my husband, appeared on the stairs. Hair messy, shirt half-buttoned, voice flat. "What the hell's going on?" I shot him a glare. My parents were locked out of their motel. In the middle of the night. They walked here. He blinked slowly. "Are you sure they didn't just forget their room key again?" "Darius." He raised his hands. Okay. He disappeared back upstairs. Something about the way he didn't ask if they were okay made my spine itch. At 4 a.m., my mom finally spoke a full sentence. "They came last night. A man said we had to leave. Something about a building inspection. But I know he wasn't from the motel. Did you call the front desk?" No phone. No line. Just him. And then the locks changed. My breath caught. "Wait, what?" "They changed the locks," my father rasped, still short of breath. "When we tried to go back in, our key cards didn't work. We knocked, and someone else opened the door. Said they'd just checked in." "So you walked here?" "We were afraid to call anyone. Afraid it would trigger something." "Something? What something?" "They're watching us, Nora," my mother whispered. "They know about the house." I checked my phone again. Battery dead. Grabbed my work laptop. Notifications pinged. My email inbox was a mess, mostly unread, but one message flashed red. Urgent. Transaction alert. $127,000 withdrawal from joint account ending in 22XX. Timestamp 12:32 a.m. I stared at the number, then reread it. Again, that account wasn't touched in over 6 months. It was our renovation fund. No alerts, no approvals, nothing. And now it was gone. I ran to the drawer near the entryway where we kept financial papers. Our property deed, mortgage statements, insurance copies. The deed wasn't there. In its place, something burned. A crumpled document, edges scorched. I smoothed it on the table. My name, printed, then slashed through in red ink. Below it, someone else's name. Selena Sinclair. My sister. Darius came back downstairs. "You okay?" "Where's the house deed?" I asked. His face didn't change. I don't know. Why? I stepped forward. Our joint account is empty. Gone. $127,000 gone in one night. He blinked. That can't be right. Where's the deed? He paused. Maybe it's in my office. I'll check. He didn't move. He just stood there, like he was waiting, watching me, measuring my reaction. You knew, I whispered. No, Nora, You knew. My mother rose shakily from the couch. They're not just after our money, Nora. They want everything. I didn't sleep. I sat in the kitchen, staring at the scorched document like it might breathe. My name crossed out. My sister's underlined. No date. No notary. But the message was clear. Selena was back, and she was taking everything. Outside, the sky bled from black to gray. I could hear my father snoring faintly upstairs. My mother stirred once or twice, coughing in her sleep. Darius hadn't come down since our confrontation. His office door had been locked for hours. I opened my laptop, clicked the bank app. Joint account, $0. No pending deposits. No recent transfers to my accounts. But there it was, $127,000 withdrawn just after midnight. One line. No explanation. I clicked for the digital signature. My breath caught. It was mine. My name, my exact signature. Except I never signed this. Never authorized it. Never even logged into the banking app last night. I copied the timestamp. 12:32 a.m. Then I called the bank. The woman on the phone was polite, polished, robotic. Yes, Ms. Sinclair. We show a mobile authorization from your device. Face ID unlock. Location pinged at your residence. That's impossible, I snapped. I was asleep. I understand your concern. Would you like us to flag it for fraud review? Flag it. Freeze it. Do not let another cent out. Yes, ma'am. I hung up. The air in the kitchen had turned thick, like breathing through soup. My skin itched. I needed help. I called Cassie. She answered on the second ring, voice still hoarse with sleep. You never call at dawn unless someone's dead. Something might be. My future. 10 minutes later, she was on my porch, hair in a messy bun, eyes sharper than mine. Talk, she said, stepping into the kitchen like it was a crime scene. I showed her the bank alert, the fake signature, the burned deed. Her jaw clenched tighter with each scan of the document. This isn't just identity theft, she murmured. It's a full handoff. Property law doesn't allow title transfers without notarization unless. She paused. Unless someone's abusing an emergency clause. I blinked. What emergency? She grabbed my mortgage file, flipped pages. There. Right here. She tapped it. There's an insurance clause allowing temporary transfer of asset control during a medical emergency if both spouses are incapacitated. I'm not incapacitated. She looked at me. That's what we have to prove. Cassie called a guy she knew from law school, Odell Quinn, now a PI, formerly a fraud investigator. She trusted him. I didn't trust anyone. Still, I gave her the green light. Have him dig into Darius. And Selena. She raised an eyebrow. Selena. I told her about the name on the deed. Cassie exhaled slowly. She vanished after your dad's heart attack. She said she'd come back when she had leverage. Maybe she found it. By 9 a.m., I was watching Darius from the hallway. He was in the office, door finally ajar, talking on his phone. Whispers. A pause. He laughed, low, awkward. He said the word deliverables. Then she's getting suspicious. I stepped inside. He jumped. Who are you talking to? He ended the call. No one. Try again. Work stuff. At 9 a.m., whispering, saying I'm suspicious. He opened his mouth. closed it. I saw it, clear as ice. Guilt is always a shadow, it never walks straight. You're part of this. No. Then prove it. He handed me his phone. Clean. No messages. No call history from the last 24 hours. I threw it on the floor. Glass cracked. He flinched. You're hiding things, I said. Whatever you're part of, you better pray it's not too late to walk away. He didn't reply, just stood there, watching me again. By noon, Cassie was back with her laptop. I've got something. She spun it around. Crow Security Holdings. Shell Company, registered in Oregon under a holding name. She scrolled. Guess whose family owns a 40% stake? I didn't have to guess. Darius. His uncle. But Darius is the emergency contact. Filed last month. And the company? Private real estate security. But there's no real staff. No HQ. They only handle one thing. Risk mitigation for property acquisitions. Is that code for stealing? Legally? No. Realistically? Absolutely. I drove straight to my parents' motel. Room 17. The door was open. Sheets torn. Pillows shredded. Drawer half open. Bible gone. A smell hung in the air like metal and mildew. I walked to the manager's office. A young guy with earbuds in, chewing gum. I asked for the surveillance tapes. He shrugged. Cameras fried last night. Power surge or something. Of course they were. I got back in my car. Checked my mirrors. No one. Turned the ignition. Nothing. Dead. My phone buzzed in my bag. Unknown number. I answered. No voice. Just breathing. Slow. Calm. Like someone smiling. Then a whisper. You're a smart girl, Nora. But smart girls still drown. The line went dead. The voice was gone. So was the signal. I threw the phone onto the passenger seat and slammed the dashboard. The motel parking lot was deserted. No cameras. No lights. No witnesses. You're a smart girl, Nora. But smart girls still drown. The words looped in my head like static. By the time I got the car, jumped by a stranger with too many questions and too few answers, the sun was already up. My chest felt tight, like a string pulled too far and ready to snap. I didn't go home. I went to Cassie. She opened the door in workout gear, holding coffee in one hand, jaw clenched like she hadn't slept. I traced Crow Security Holdings, she said before I even sat down. It's not real. Not in the way a company should be. No full-time employees, no tax filings in 3 years, and a listed HQ. She spun the laptop toward me. A grainy satellite image of an old warehouse by the river. Roof half collapsed. No signage. Abandoned on paper. That's where your deed is going. My stomach dropped. We're going. Cassie didn't argue. She grabbed her coat. Odell met us at the edge of the river. He stood with his back to the water. Arms crossed. Expression unreadable. No legal cause for entry, he muttered. But off the record, you've got 15 minutes before the county patrol swings by again. We ducked under a twisted metal gate. Inside, the warehouse smelled like rust and old oil. Dust curled in the sunlight, cutting through cracks in the wall. Metal shelves lined the space. Files, boxes, laptops stacked in milk crates. No sound but our footsteps. No warmth. No cameras. No one. Cassie moved fast. Help me find anything with your name. I started flipping boxes. Old contracts. Real estate maps. Scanned driver's licenses. Dozens of identities. Then I saw it. My name. On a folder marked Sinclair Asset Priority. I opened it. Inside, copies of my mortgage, fake signatures, emails I never sent, approval forms I never saw. One had been notarized by someone I'd never heard of. Another paper, a temporary transfer of ownership, dated 3 weeks ago, labeled Emergency clause trigger, verified by S. Sinclair. Selena. The air went cold. You don't destroy a life in one day, I whispered. You start planting the poison long before. Cassie looked up. They were counting on you freezing, not fighting. Then I found the USB drive. It was tucked in the back of a folder, wrapped in an old receipt. Cassie popped it into her laptop. One video file. No label. We played it. A grainy recording. An office somewhere. Dimly lit. Selena sitting at a desk. Talking to someone off-screen. She won't see it coming. She's too busy playing house. Once the fake clause is triggered, it's done. She'll be removed. We'll clean up the rest. Who's we? A voice asked. You don't need to know that. The voice replied, as long as we get the land. Then static. Cut to black. I slammed the laptop shut. My lungs burned. She sold me out, I whispered. My own sister. Cassie didn't say anything. A crash echoed through the far wall. We froze. Cassie grabbed a pipe from the floor. Odell reached for something beneath his jacket. I moved behind a stack of crates. Footsteps. Slow. Measured. A figure stepped into view. Black hoodie. Gloves. Masked face. Odell shouted, "Don't move." The figure ran. Odell tackled him near the exit. The man fought back, fists elbows wild. Cassie kicked a box into his legs. He fell. Odell pinned him. Pulled the mask off. I didn't recognize him. Cassie did. That's Brandon. From Darius's firm. My heart slammed against my ribs. What the hell is he doing here? Brandon's face was blank. Then he smiled. Just picking up a few things. Should have done it last night. Odell pressed his knee harder. You're gonna tell us everything. Brandon laughed. You're a few hours late. The real cleanup already started. We turned back toward the laptop. Files gone. Wiped. Even the folder I'd just held. Empty. How? Brandon winked. Wireless scrub. Activated the moment I walked in. Cassie cursed. We still have the drive. No, you don't, he said. My eyes darted to my pocket. Empty. I dropped it. Somewhere in the fight. I dove toward the crates, searching. Boxes overturned. Dust. Dirt. Nothing. Brandon didn't need to say it. He knew. He had what we needed. He stood up slowly. Odell let him. He walked out the door. Just like that. Gone. We stood in silence. Then Cassie whispered, he just erased your proof. All of it. I didn't move. Didn't speak. Because she was wrong. He hadn't erased my proof. He'd just confirmed it. It's not just about the house anymore. It's about taking everything I ever was. Rain hammered the windshield as I drove toward the only address Odell could dig up for Selena. It wasn't even technically hers. Registered under a trust, buried under 3 layers of paperwork, but it was enough. The GPS guided me up a winding road lined with pine trees leaning like witnesses, all watching me climb into the hills. My hands wouldn't stop shaking. Cassie had offered to come, but this was mine. My sister. My past. My mess. The estate sat behind a black iron gate. Modern. Perfect. Cold. The kind of place you buy when you're pretending your life isn't rotting from the inside out. I rang the bell. Silence. Then footsteps. When Selena opened the door, the first thing I saw was her smile. Sharp, practiced, as if she'd been rehearsing it in the mirror. "Nora!" she said, like she was greeting a distant acquaintance, not her younger sister. "You look tired." "You've been busy," I replied. Her eyes flickered. We stepped into the foyer. The ceiling felt too high, too bright, too white. Homes like this were built by people who feared shadows. She folded her arms. "You drove here in the rain. Must be urgent." "Cut the act," I said. "Why is your name on my deed?" She gave a small laugh. "Is it?" I held up a photo of the burned document. The image shook in my hand, not from the cold. Her expression didn't break. "You should take better care of your paperwork," she said. "People can alter anything these days." I stepped closer. "Don't lie to me." She didn't blink. "You always think people are lying. Maybe that's your real problem." "No," I said softly. "My real problem is trusting the wrong people." Something dark slid across her face. Not guilt. Annoyance. "You were the one who left," she snapped. "You chose your husband, your little suburban life. You thought you were finally someone, but you're still the same child begging for scraps of validation." My jaw tightened. "Why my house, Selena?" She turned away. "Because it matters." "To who?" "To people who can actually do something with it." My chest tightened. "Who are you working with?" Selena didn't answer. She picked up a stack of mail on the table, flipping through it casually. A yellow envelope slipped, fell to the floor. The top corner read County Recorder's Office, final processing. I lunged for it. She stepped back too late. I ripped it open. An eviction notice. Stamped. Authorized. Dated for tomorrow. "You're out of your mind," I whispered. She shrugged. "Think of it as restructuring. You never knew how to manage anything worth owning." I stepped toward her. "You're helping strangers steal my house." "No," she said calmly. "I'm helping people who actually know how to use it." I didn't trust myself not to break something, so I left. The rain had gotten worse. My car was parked at the edge of the driveway, half hidden under towering cedar branches. I hit the unlock button. Nothing. I hit it again. Still nothing. A faint metallic scrape whispered from behind the car. I stepped closer. All 4 tires were slashed. Slices clean, precise, someone who knew what they were doing. I spun, heart pounding. Fog seeped across the road like a curtain being pulled shut. A low engine growl echoed from somewhere beyond the trees. Headlights flared. Too bright. Too close. The vehicle accelerated. Straight toward me. I ran. Branches whipped my face. Mud splattered my jeans. My breath tore out of me in sharp bursts. A saying my mother once repeated echoed in my head. When the dark calls your name, run until your soul remembers the light. But the dark was faster. The vehicle roared behind me, tires skidding over wet earth. I dove down a slope, slid, hit the bottom hard. Pain shot up my hip. I rolled beneath a fallen tree trunk and pressed my hand over my mouth. The engine slowed, idled, waiting. Lights cut through the woods in slow, sweeping arcs. Searching. Then, after what felt like a lifetime, the vehicle reversed. The engine faded up the hill. Silence settled like ash. I didn't move for a full minute. Then I crawled out, drenched and shaking, leaves stuck to my hair. I climbed the slope in the opposite direction of the headlights. My limbs ached. My heart felt too big for my chest, but I kept climbing. At the top, I could see the estate far behind me. A tiny house of glass. A ghost of my sister's face staring from the window. I didn't wait to see if she was smiling, because I already knew. My sister wasn't trying to scare me. She was trying to erase me, and she'd almost succeeded. By the time I made it back to Cassie's, my clothes were still wet, my shoes caked with mud from Selena's woods. She took one look at me and didn't waste time asking questions. "Inside," she said. "Odell's already here." The storage unit we were using as our war room felt colder than usual. Metal walls, flickering bulb, a folding table covered in files, maps, and a whiteboard full of arrows that led straight to nowhere. My mother always said, "When the world corners you, build your own door." Today it felt more like we were clawing through concrete with bare hands. Odell didn't greet me. He dropped a stack of papers onto the table. "You need to see this. Corporate reports, shell companies, loan filings, all circling the same drain. Crow Security Holdings." But then a name jumped out. Nolan Crow, Darius's uncle. I froze. He's been out of real estate for a decade. Odell shook his head. Not anymore. Your house is part of a land acquisition plan. They want your neighborhood for redevelopment. Cheap land. High return. And stealing my property is their shortcut? I snapped. They're not stealing it, Odell said quietly. They're laundering it through emergency clauses, forged signatures, and family proxies. Perfectly legal if you don't look too close. Criminal if you do. My stomach twisted. And Selena? She's their entry point, Cassie said. She's been selling family leverage. Your leverage. To secure her buy-in. My hands balled into fists. Then we burn all this down. We dove into the work. Cassie cracked open her laptop, fingers flying. Their entire fraud trail runs through the county clerk system. If we get an injunction filed before 8 in the morning, we freeze the transfer. So we expose them, I said. The whole network. Exactly. Odell pulled up surveillance photos from the warehouse files. Photos of my parents outside their motel, taken from across the street. Weeks old. Different angles. Different times. They were being watched long before last night, he said. My throat tightened. Why? Pressure, he replied. To destabilize you. Isolate you. Make you easier to push out. A chill ran down my spine. Someone had planned every inch of this. For months. Maybe longer. I could feel eyes on me even here. Metal walls couldn't shake that sensation. Then the door banged open. I shot to my feet. Odell pulled his gun halfway out. But it was Darius, or the version of him that had been chewed up and spit out. Bruised cheek, split lip, shirt wrinkled like he'd slept on a sidewalk. He stepped inside, trembling. Nora, please. You have to listen. I'm done listening. I didn't know what they were planning. Bullshit. He dropped to his knees. Cassie muttered under her breath, Don't let him play you, Nora. People apologize most when they want something. Darius looked up at me. Nora, they threatened me. Said they'd bury me if I didn't cooperate. And you thought burying me was the better option? I didn't think they'd go after your parents, he whispered. I swear, I'd never let anyone hurt them. You already did. The room went silent. Then Darius said something that sucked all the oxygen out of the air. They're accelerating the plan. They said your eviction is already final. I felt the ground tilt. Cassie slammed her laptop shut. We need the injunction now. If they filed the final deed, we only have hours. Darius stood shakily. Let me help. No, I said. You stay here. You've done enough. His face fell, but he didn't argue. 15 minutes later, Cassie and I were in my car. Odell following behind on a motorcycle he'd borrowed from someone who wasn't asking for it back. Cassie opened a digital file on her tablet. I found something else. Internal memos from Nolan Crow's office. What kind of memos? She hesitated. They referenced something called Operation Erasure. A cold shiver crawled up my spine. Erasure of what? You, Cassie said. Legally. Financially. Publicly. My chest tightened. How long? 6 months. 6 months of planning my disappearance while I made dinner and paid bills and kissed a man who was selling pieces of me one form at a time. The highway was slick from the rain. Fog rolled across the asphalt like smoke. Cassie typed as I drove. Once we file this, your house can't be touched, she said. But we need a physical copy time-stamped by the clerk's office. What time is it? 7:12. We've got 48 minutes. Odell's motorcycle sped ahead, lights blinking. Then the black SUV appeared. Fast. Silent. Predator smooth. It swung into our lane without warning. Shit, I jerked the wheel. The SUV rammed the back of Cassie's side. Metal shrieked. Cassie screamed. I steadied the car. Hold on. The SUV hit us again. Harder. Cassie, grabbed the dashboard. They're trying to stop the injunction. Not today. I floored it. The engine roared. The SUV pulled up alongside us. A tinted window rolled down. A gloved hand aimed something. Duck! I shouted. A metal spike shot toward her tire. We swerved. The spike hit pavement. Odell swerved behind the SUV, clipped its rear, spun it off course for 2 seconds. I took the opening. Foot slammed. Speed pushed me into the seat. Cassie held on as we tore down the last stretch of highway. Buildings came into view. 750, she yelled. We skidded into the courthouse parking lot. I grabbed the documents. Ran barefoot. My heels had snapped in the chase. Up the steps. Through the metal detector. Straight to the clerk's window. Emergency injunction filing. I gasped, sliding the papers across. The clerk stamped them. 7:57 a.m. I exhaled. We stopped it, Cassie breathed behind me. We actually. A vibration buzzed against my leg. A blocked number. I answered. A voice I hadn't heard before. Smooth. Cold. You should have stayed quiet, Nora. Now you're on the list. The line went dead. The power cut was sudden. 1 second the hallway was lit. The next black. No hum of electricity. Just weighty silence. I froze. 2 heartbeats. Then I heard it. A window sliding. Soft, but deliberate. I dropped the file I was holding. Paper rustled. Muffled footsteps upstairs. My parents' room. I inhaled. My chest tightened. Soaked in darkness, I pressed a finger to my temple and whispered to myself. Fear is a liar. Courage whispers louder. At the same moment, Cassie's phone buzzed on the small table by the door. She froze. The glow from the screen stretched across her face like pale moonlight. Something's wrong, she murmured. Odell slid his hand to the small pistol at his waist. I did the same, gripping a heavy paperweight. I crept forward down the hallway. Every nerve screamed. At the top of the stairs, a shadow moved too quickly. I lunged. Metal on wood. Glass shattered behind me. Old hallway windows. Light from the street sank in. Suddenly bright, suddenly exposing everything. A man in a dark coat. Mask. The smell of wet leather. A gun. I stepped back. The man cocked the weapon. Then he spoke in a voice I recognized. Game's over, Nora. My breath caught. The mask dropped. It was Thomas Sinclair. My uncle. The man they'd always spoken of in whispers. The one my mother swore she'd never speak to again. He held up a flash drive. This is mine now. And so is everything tied to Sinclair. Time slowed. A single raindrop hit the window behind him. Tilted. Hung there like a warning. Cassie whipped out her phone flashlight. I saw his face fully for the first time. Anger. Greed. Hate. I can erase you, he said. Like you never existed. He lifted the gun. Odell fired. The sound cracked like thunder in the empty hallway. Thomas staggered. The bullet hit his shoulder. He dropped the flash drive. It skittered across the floor. Cassie dove to grab it. I pushed past the stunned uncle. Police sirens screamed in the distance. Odell must have called them as he fired. Thomas dropped to his knees. The gun clattered. The hallway lights flickered back on one by one. My parents burst out of their room. My mother's face drained. My father's hand shook, but reached out. I crouched beside Thomas. He looked at me, shock. Horror. Then he spat out words I never expected. They said you were incompetent, worthless, a liability. Your sister signed you away like a broken check. They paid me more than she ever got. Real estate isn't just land. It's power. I stood, tired, angry, alive. Power built on lies is a collapsing tower, I said. Quiet. Hard. The police handcuffed him. He didn't resist. Sirens. Red and blue. Flashing through the windows. The house smelled like wet wood and betrayal. At dawn, the three of us, my parents and I, stood on the porch. Morning mist hovered over the lawn. The first light splayed across the dewy grass. Cassie leaned against the doorframe. Odell stood near the mailbox. I held a thick envelope. Inside, sealed court orders, temporary restraining orders, asset freezes, title returned to me, cash frozen, shell companies dissolved. My mother exhaled, shaky. "You did it," she whispered. My father touched my shoulder. "You saved us." I shook my head. "I didn't save us," I said. "We saved ourselves." The storm had passed. The sky was pale blue. Cassie smiled softly. Sometimes the darkest nights birth the strongest dawn. Rain earlier, now sun. Cold terror, now warmth. I looked at my house, the porch, the front gate, the windows, not as a prize but as a home. A fortress built by our own hands. I realized something. Home is not just brick and lock. It's love, respect, safety, a place where you own your voice. I stepped inside. The floorboards creaked. The morning light caught dust motes floating in the air. On the wall near the entrance, I noticed the frame had cracked in the struggle. The glass shattered, edges jagged. I knelt down, picked up a shard. I stared at my reflection. Blurred, fractured, but awake. I whispered, "Better a broken house than a broken soul." And I meant it. 10 days later, the local paper ran the story. Real estate fraud ring busted. Local woman saves family home. Photos of Thomas Sinclair in handcuffs. Official records. Testimonials from motel owners, neighbors, even Darius's firm employees who turned whistleblowers. Crow Security Holdings was no more. Miles of court filings. A civil case opened. Assets seized. Selena vanished again, this time without a trace. Her name scrubbed from all documents, flagged by the FBI. Darius. He stayed away. He called once. Sent a short message. "I'm sorry." I deleted it. I didn't hate him. I didn't forgive him. I just didn't need to answer. Because now I answered only to one person. Me. The sun rose higher. Noon light poured through the windows. I walked to the porch, coffee in hand. My mother sat in a wicker chair. My father on the bench, near the roses. Their faces calm. Normal. They looked like home. I closed my eyes and felt something I hadn't felt in years. Relief. Soft. Real. Healing. I thought about what I lost: trust, innocence, silence. A sister's smile that hid teeth behind diplomacy. I thought about what I gained: my voice, my boundaries, my life back. A friend once told me, strength doesn't come from what you win. It comes from what you survive. Today I survived. I reopened the front door. Light spilled in. The house felt larger, quieter, mine. I stepped inside. And this time, no one could ever knock me out again. Not unless I let them.